Welcome to Season 3 of Raise the Anchor with your host, Melissa Burbridge. This season, we are going to inspire, ignite, and create space for you to go after the change you want with invigorating interviews and some deep diving into my personal story. We hope you enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Raise the Anchor. Again, this week, we are going to do a throwback to all of our 43 last episodes. And on this week's throwback, we are asking the people what made them, or what was their pivotal moment? What was that moment that made them make the change? So we're hoping that this inspires you to want to make that change.
And after that, I was over it and I was ready to get back to work.
So you made a pretty big decision, a life-changing decision, and that's how we actually met. Yeah. What was that life-changing decision?
This was probably now a couple months into the pandemic, and I was living in Toronto, and Toronto is a fantastic city if you have stuff to do. But if you're sitting at home waiting for stuff to do, it's very big and very expensive, and my partner and I were both kind of over it. So we were sitting at dinner, and somehow the topic came up, and I just looked at her and I said, I'm over this city. I think I'm done. And she looks over and says, "Hey, you want to move to Nova Scotia?" And I look at her for a second and I said, yes, let's go.
You don't realize how impactful a bad fit in your professional life affects your personal life. And like, I knew I wasn't myself, but I didn't realize how it was infiltrating the rest of my life. So, and that was about the time that you and I met, and that's where you were seeing those, markers, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Because I remember having coffee with you as our one-on-one, and you just lit up, and you were like so happy and lit up at the interaction of the networking. And then I would see you at the BNI meetings, and it was almost like, I really don't want to be here. You liked BNI. I could tell you liked BNI, but I could tell you weren't happy in the capacity that you were at that network meeting.
When we try to do something outside of what is natural to us, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how hard you try, right? And I've known that most of my life is, I've been in sales, and I'm not a hard sell at all. It's always been about relationships. It's been about the long-term goals, and it's about me connecting with those people. And what I was finding in that particular job is I wasn't able to do that, and it just wasn't working. It was causing me such unhappiness that on Sunday nights, I was not looking forward to Monday mornings. And nobody loves Monday mornings, but this was a different Monday morning for me. This was a real dread, and it was sucking some of my soul away. And, people that knew me knew that was happening, right? But what do? You just have to continue. So, and that's where your program came perfectly timed for me, is that what it did was centered me into focusing on myself, and then the opportunities came.
So what made you leave that world?
So I was actually replacing 2 maternity leaves. So I was there for about 20 months, and I really, really saw the potential. So I was the salesperson that hated picking up the phone, which is kind of crazy to think, because I take the phone now to text and to interact with people, but I hated doing cold calling. It is still the thing that I hate the most. So whenever I go into a meeting or whenever I talk to somebody, they're like, "Oh, it was great. I was talking to you online. Like, we had a conversation on Twitter, or we had a conversation on Facebook." And that made the conversation so much easier because we had a prior relationship. So I really saw the potential of social media. And then when I left, or when, again, my term was over, I knew that social media was going to be part of my life to some capacity. So I applied for a few roles that, had social media manager, social media to some capacity. Then unfortunately I had a health scare that really made me realize what I wanted to do with my life. And then I went on my own in September 2014.
Wow. Really good question. I would say the reason why I jumped into, restarting QuickSnap, where we went under the Dragon's Den, was my son was just born, and I knew I just wanted to do something really special. And so At the time, I was doing a sales job for a local company, and I just decided to dive right in. So we went out and got funding. That was a game changer for us. A lot of risk involved, but obviously it paid off. And then most recently, I would say even earlier this year, I gave up a job that I've been doing for almost 10 years and did really well and paid an incredible amount of money. But I just had this draw to become more deeply immersed into the consultant side of the business, and actually left on probably one of the best years we've ever had and transitioned over doing our company full time.
And now you're like super busy all the time, very successful, helping other businesses thrive, especially in a time.
My foreman, every day I would just like project manage him and be like, what do you need from me to make sure that you're going to be able to build the road? Obviously, you've been building roads for 40 years. Let me help you. So I was really good at it, and lasted about 6 months full time, and then realized that being on a construction site was, not my thing. I was never going to be successful at that because I was, a petite female, really. Basically, that's what it boiled down to. I wasn't a big, old, angry, overweight man. So I could tell that it was never going to work out for me on that construction side. And so I asked to go into head office. And in head office is where you do design development, basically. So I was in head office for about 3 or 4 months, and I was running this major canal development, and it was in pre-development stage. So it was we were having stakeholder meetings, and each week I would chair these stakeholder meetings with everyone involved in making major design changes. So there's about 10 men all sitting around the table, and me, 20-year-old female. And so I remember one day we eventually were going, oh well, we need to get the engineer to sign off on this. And I was like, well, I'm the engineer. And they were all like, oh, are you? Oh, okay. And they hadn't really realized that the little woman running the show was actually the engineer. And then I was like, well, this isn't going to work out for me. And so I quit pretty much straight away.
So what made you position from working for corporate to working on your own, doing similar things?
So if you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have said that I probably wouldn't have transitioned onto my own. Like, it was always something I wanted to do. And I knew that I always wanted to have my own business. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And probably over the last 20 years, I've had a million ideas and a bunch of different notebooks of something that I could do. But I was very comfortable in my 9 to 5. I was almost 10 years with a financial services organization where I did recruitment and loved it. And they went through a global restructure on the HR side of things. And I was one of those individuals impacted. And once I don't want to say the shock, but it was a bit of a shock. I wasn't really expecting it. Once that wore off, about an hour after the phone call that I received, I said, I'm not working for someone else. I'm gonna do it this time, knowing that I had a small buffer in terms of a severance, as well as, not wanting to hit the market.
Thank you for listening to Raise the Anchor, brought to you by Alizé Creative Solutions. We hope you found that story very inspiring. We look forward to bringing you more week. Subscribe to the podcast to stay in the loop. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review to spread the love even further. We hope you have smooth sailing.